let's look at Robert Frost, Acquainted with the Night. Um, so this we know is, I think I pronounce it Terza Rima. And we're going to look at that format eventually. But, I don't know if we will, because I kind of want you to do that in our discussion board today. We're going to have a grammar lesson, though, it looks like. So, first we can start looking at it. The idea acquainted, though, right away. This has like the concept of, mild friendship. I mean, not friends. Definitely doesn't say I'm friends with the night. It doesn't say I don't know the night, though, either. All right. So there's some sort of, or connection. There is a connection here, and yet the poem is going to be about kind of no connection. And so that kind of contradiction between connection and no connection is something that we should look at in the poem. And I think maybe we'll get there a little bit to begin with. But one thing that stood out to me as I was reading this poem, was all the I haves, right? It doesn't say, I looked down the saddest city lane. I passed by the watchman. It says, I have. It doesn't say I walked. Yeah, I have. And so if you know, and to be honest, I learned kind of explicit grammar rules as I progressed as a grad student and as an instructor. But if you know, this is actually the present perfect. This idea of I have. All right. And the difference is, we're going to look at the difference between the present perfect versus the simple past. And the simple past would have just been, I can put it here, I walked. That's the past. That's past tense, right? I walked. And it's simple past because there's not a helping verb with it. The present perfect always has, and then like the past perfect has have or had, depending on if it's present or past. And so this is present perfect as opposed to simple past. And I think it's something to think about. And I you think, oh my gosh, grammar, I'm freaking out. Grammar is actually really interesting when you think about what it signifies. So I got a video here. I did not create the video, but we can watch it here.
This is Everyday Grammar. I'm Kaveh.
And I'm Lucia. Hey, Kaveh, you're looking a bit tan. Did you go to the beach?
I did. I went to Florida last weekend. Have you ever gone to Florida?
Sure I have. I've gone there 2 years ago.
Wait, you mean you went there 2 years ago?
What's the difference?
Good question. You're asking about the difference between the simple past and present perfect verb tenses. I went to Florida is in the simple past. You use the simple past to talk about a past event that happened at a certain time.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about I have gone?
I have gone to Florida is in the present perfect. It shows that a past event happened at an unknown time.
Wait, but if it's about the past, why is it called the present perfect?
Well, it's to emphasize the present effect of a past action.
I have graduated from college. I graduated from college.
Interesting. That's a lot to think about. Is there an easier way to remember?
As a matter of fact, there is. Focus on the adverbs. Adverbs like yesterday, ago, and last night go with the simple past. Adverbs like never, already, for, and since, they go with the present perfect.
Wow, I've never thought of it like that before.
And that's everyday grammar.
Look at us, learning a little grammar. Let's see if we can't make sense here. But if we watch that and think about that, number one, talks about we don't know when this happened. That was one of the things that differentiated between present perfect and simple past. But another one is the connection. And you could see it, but the connection between past and present. And we could see it in that example that they had in terms of I graduated college versus I have graduated college. The I have graduated is the present perfect, and it shows that somehow having graduated college impacts you currently. That's the slight difference. And so this is a slight difference, and yeah, we just watched a little video meant for language learners, which is great, but try to apply that here. I mean, all these haves are taking up a lot of space and a large percentage of this poem. And it's being done for a reason. And I think this connection between past and present kind of goes to this first idea about acquainted. All right, this is a poem about separation and, misanthropy. But it's also a poem about connection. All right, and it's just something to think about. And we can see it with the way the sentences are structured. We'll get a little bit more into the poem. I don't know if we're going to do the whole poem because we did that wonderful grammar lesson, but I have been one acquainted with the night, even here. It's a single person, right? I have been one, but it almost implies there are others. I have been one. Not I am acquainted with the night, I am the only one. It almost implies I have been one of many, or more than one, exist. I have walked out in rain and back in rain. It's interesting, the repetition of rain, maybe like the repetition of raindrops itself. I have outwalked the furthest city light. This idea of furthest is interesting. If you know the difference between farther and further, further is kind of a abstract concept as opposed to a literal. So like you can say, usually you'd say I've outwalked the farthest city light, and it's an actual clear distance. If you say something like, let's talk about this further, that's not a tangible distance, and that's why you would say further, because it's more abstract. Farther is more concrete, where you can run farther, but you discuss something further. All right. So that's interesting. That's something that we could look at, is that this might actually be a hint also that light isn't a literal thing. And we talk about light. We can look at light as happiness. We can see light perhaps as society or others. And he's moving away from these things. All right. This is a pretty sad, desolate stanza. And I think, we're going to get more of it. The terza rima that we talked about just briefly, and it's in the discussion board for this week. Let's see if I can get a different color going here. It's just showing that rain is going to rhyme with lane, and then lane rhymes with explain. But then when we have beat, is going to go down here with feet, and then street. But then we'll have cry and by and sky. And one way to look at it, and then, I'm running out of colors here. I guess I can use that, but height and right. Um, the concept here that we're seeing, it's funny too, right? This is the same rhyme as up here. And that actually might further discuss this idea of connectedness. So what we have is we have these distinct stanzas that are different and separate from one another, but there's a link between all of them because of the form, because of this poetry or the poem's structure, and we even have a link between the beginning all the way to the end, right? And so this is something, again, that I think we should be looking at when we look at this poem, is that it is a poem about isolation, but there are these kind of subtle hints at connectedness, and it's just something to meditate on. And I think there's something there. I kind of want to say it, but I also want you guys to think about it more. I have looked down the saddest city lane. This is interesting too. It's almost like he's trying to be sad. Like, why is he looking down this way? Was it sad? Did he know it was sad when he was looking down it? I don't know. Sometimes people go out of their way to be sad. As they're sad, they want to kind of sulk in that sorrow. And this kind of feels like that a little bit. That why is he looking down the saddest city lane? I have passed by the watchman on his beat and dropped my eyes, unwilling to explain. Good question is, explain what? Right? And why isn't he... Why not talk to this guy? Is a question. And it's a question that we can look throughout the poem. Why is this happening, right? I have stood still and stopped the sound of feet. So he stopped his own feet, right? When far away an interrupted cry came over houses from another street. You should ask yourself, is he stopping his feet to listen? Or so he's not heard? Oops. Right? Is he trying to connect, which would be listening, or is he trying here to hear others, which is, or not hear, I'm sorry, not be heard, which is not connecting, right? And again, in this line, we have this balance between connection and not connection. This idea of interrupted cry, I don't know what it's interrupting, and that's a question. Is it interrupting something, or is there another voice? So this interrupted cry, this idea that it's interrupted might also imply that there's more than one cry going around. There's more than one person out. You know what? I'm going to stop there. But hey, we had a grammar lesson, and that's a good start. I hope this helps. Let me know.